Hello and welcome. Today I'm super excited to share with you the new SUQQU collection, and I have to say this is even more beautiful in person. I'm kind of like really surprised because, looking at the pictures, I thought it looked gorgeous. I was very excited for it, but when I saw it in person, I literally gasped. It's that pretty. And, this first shade here, a lot of times when you have something like that, you don't really notice a difference once you actually apply it to the eye. And this one you actually do. So we'll take a look at that. I also just want to give a brief shout out, Monica Venator. I purchased these last year during the anniversary sale. They're one of my favorite pairs of earrings because they are incredibly lightweight. And they just gave me a discount code for all of you. So I'll leave that in the description box if anybody's interested in purchasing anything. And then I also want to give a shout out to Ideal. I love my earrings, but they are having an archive sale through the end of the month. So I'll have all of that information on the community tab on my page. So if you're not familiar with that, just go to my main YouTube page and you click on posts, and that's where I post all the sales and deals. Or you can follow me on Instagram at Alexis Jong. So let's go ahead and get started. We're going to start off with swatches. So this collection I think is absolutely stunning. And these three items I have here today were gifted to me in PR. Honestly, they're the three that I wanted the most, so I'm very, very grateful. And I'm probably not going to purchase any other items from the collection just because these were the ones that I wanted. So yeah, I'm tempted by the other blush and maybe the lipsticks, but I think I'm going to stick with these three. And I want to start off with this shade here because, you can swipe this and you can see, there's a little bit of an overspray on these two purples originally. You can see where I have the outer edging, how it's almost like more of a softer golden overspray on there. That comes off. So these swatches are without that. But look at how I swatch this and how I still have the white and the purple distinctly separated, but they meld together beautifully. So that's even with me swirling my finger like this, and you still get this beautiful, more like ombre effect. And, depending on whether you want more purple or more white, that will determine where you put your product. So the next shade here is a gorgeous base shade here. It's kind of like a soft taupe mixed with mauve. And one of the things that SUQQU does really well are these kind of base crease shades. Their matte formula is super creamy and comfortable, and I just absolutely love them. So this is the purple in the second row, and you can see it does have some shimmer. It's got some golden shimmer to it, but I did take it from the spot that I'd already removed the overspray. And our last shade here is going to be more of a dusty mauve. Look at that. It's stunning. So this palette is kind of like, it's probably one of my favorite ever from SUQQU. It's that gorgeous. It does remind me of a few other palettes, so we will have some comparisons at the end. But the formulas on this are fantastic. I absolutely love this. I'm so incredibly happy with this one. Now let's take a look at the blush and the highlighter. So this is a SUQQU Blurring Color Blush in 108. And the way these are designed, we have more of a matte blush shade here, and then we typically have a highlighter here. And you can always going to be a very subtle highlight. Sometimes they're more matte, so it just kind of works really well with the blush. Sometimes it's a little bit shimmery. This one is going to be more matte. There is a little bit of shimmer, but it's going to be, pretty subtle. And typically with these blushes, this is going to be the lighter shade, and mixing them in the middle is here. Typically, I will mix them all together. So this would be the shade that I would end up with. So let's just go ahead and kind of buff out a little bit of each of those shades here so we can see what those look like individually. And you can see they give you a really soft blurred effect. You can tell even on my arm here, but you'll see that on the skin as well. So this is blush 108. It is actually the warmer of the two. The lighter one, the cooler one, it looked very pretty, but it did look more similar to ones I had. And what really drew me in here is this is a very pale pinky lilac. And this is actually more coral, but it was described more as a soft red, which reminded me of one of my favorite all-time SUQQU blushes from the Pure Color blush. I believe it was number 5. And it was a soft red that was just like so incredibly perfect and natural. So that's what it made me think of. So let's take a look at the highlight. Now, a few months ago, SUQQU introduced these gel highlighters, and I mean, it's a gel powder formula, and these are stunning. So they've only been out as limited edition products. And this one here is going to be 103, and you can see it's going to be a soft, pale, cool pink. So it's a cool petal pink. And I love this formula. It is a gel to powder texture. It's very smooth. It does have some glitter or shimmer in it, but it's so finely milled you don't feel that, but you can definitely see the light reflection from that. You can put this on more subtly or build it up, and I have it mixed with the blush on the cheeks right now. So let's go ahead and take a look at the eyeshadow palette. This collection is SUQQU's pre-summer collection. It's called the Stellar Allure. And this is going to launch on March 20th at Selfridges and April 3rd at Harrods and Liberty. The Stellar Allure collection is inspired by the breathtaking beauty of distant stars, planets, and galaxies. The SUQQU Stellar Allure pre-summer collection captures the awe-inspiring splendor of the cosmos. This collection explores the uncharted depths of a world shaped by nature, revealing stunning three-dimensionality, sparkling radiance, and intriguing textural nuances. Embrace the luminous glow of the new season with SUQQU. You know, as I mentioned, these 3 items were gifted to me in PR, and we do have 2 different eyeshadow palettes that are available in this collection. So number 145 is a sheer gold and pink marble. It looks beautiful. It's definitely going to be your warmer tone quad, and that's really going to be, it looks more like corals and golds with actually a pop of purple as well. This one, number 146, is described as sheer purple and purple marble. And this is described as capturing the interplay of light and shadow with a captivating purple shade accented by green pearls and a marbled blue-purple hue infused with silver. So that must be that green pearl must be what kind of comes off as a little gold when the light hits it. Each of the eyeshadow palettes retails for £50. Now, as we're looking at the eyeshadow swatches here, I'm using the Koyodo 3D finger brush, which is one of my favorites. So I really love this brush because it fits my eye socket very well, and it's great for one and dones, but it's also very versatile due to its shape. And I feel like it lays down color very nicely. So in this case, when we're looking at the first shade here, you can see a distinction between where the purple is and where that more whitish portion is. And the white, you can really see, it's the green pearls, but it has more of a greenish gold hue to it. You can see that reflection, and the way that these all meld together is very seamless. So you can go in with a fingertip to add a little bit more depth of color there, but you're still going to get that same effect. And that's one of the things I think is special about this shade, because it doesn't just all mix into the same color. You can still see a little bit of a soft gradation even when you kind of swirl your brush in the shade. Now, as I mentioned, the mattes are super soft. They're more of a creamy velvet type texture, and they go on beautifully. They're never patchy or dry. And, we've had some SUQQU palettes over the last couple of years that have been kind of hit or miss, but I really feel like within the last so often they've kind of gone back to their perfection. They've always been one of my favorite eyeshadow formulas, and we did have some hit or miss ones, but I think these are back to like top of their quality. So both the taupe and the mauve shades here are really beautiful. Again, this one, the second shade in the palette, looks taupe in the pan, more of like a soft fawn brown with a little taupe, but when you actually apply it, you do see a hint of mauve to that, which really ties into this color story beautifully. And then the fourth shade in the palette is going to be a beautiful dusty mauve. The third shade, that beautiful purple, is going to be a little bit more of a blue-based purple shade, more of a medium depth. And again, we do have some of that green pearl kind of mixed in there. It's not, I would say there's a little bit less of that than there is in the first shade. So it's definitely not going to be as shimmery as the first shade, but you do have a little bit of that. It's going to be more of a satin shimmer. Overall, I absolutely love this palette. The color story is right up my alley. I love purple eyeshadows. And these ones here, one of the things I love about them is they do have kind of more of that bluish base to the purple hues. So sometimes for me with the purples, if they have more of a pinkish base to them, you know, instead of it being a beautiful purple in my eyes can look a little bit more unwell. So this I think works beautifully to do that, and actually enhances the whiteness of my eyes. And then our matte shades here are just beautiful accent shades, and you can use them on their own just for a very soft, subtle, neutral look as well. So I think this is a fantastic palette, and I wouldn't be surprised if this makes it into my favorites this year. Let's go ahead and take a look at our cheek shades. We've got the blush and the highlight. And we also have two blurring color blushes. Now the blurring color blushes are what replace the pure color blush formula. And I do actually think it is an improvement upon that formula. I'm really happy with these new blushes. And according to SUQQU, the blush formula itself delicately enhances the cheeks with a subtle translucent glow, adding depth and nuance. So we have two new limited edition shades here. So I have number 108, which is described as Mars Red and Pearl Lilac. And number 109 is described as Space Pink and Pearl Green. Again, I think that one looks very beautiful, but I do think that one's going to look very light. So that one's going to be better for lighter complexions, just based off of photos and swatches I've seen. The SUQQU blurring color blushes and the reflect highlighters both retail for £40 each. So this is the warmer tone blush, but you can see, even though it is going to be a bit warmer in tone than the eyeshadow palette is, which definitely leans cooler, you know, I think it's still close enough to neutral that these do pair nicely together. I think it's a really gorgeous palette, and I actually chose this one over the other one, partly because I felt like this one had a little bit more color, but also just because I feel like kind of mixing a little bit of warmth with a cooler eyeshadow palette, you know, sometimes that can kind of balance things out a little bit. And I thought this one added the right amount of balance, especially since we have more of that pinky purple hue on the upper diagonal of the palette here. And that really helps balance out the color story as well. You can see when I'm putting this on, and I am using the Chikuhodo Ren 06 brush, you can see that it really does add a matte blurring effect, but it does not look dry on the skin. And that's what I really love about this formula. I think they've really done a great job with this blush formula, and it's really beautiful. So if you like subtle highlights, the blush palette itself, along with the lighter shade in here, works well enough as a subtle highlight. But if you do want a little bit more shimmer, I love the Reflect gel highlighters. These are fantastic. I picked up both of the limited edition ones that were available around the holidays. This new pink one is a great addition as well. So we're going to be comparing those, but it definitely has that gel powder texture to it, and it goes on very smoothly. You don't feel any grit. It stays put. You can get more of a subtle radiance, or you can really bling it out if you'd like. And I think it's done so well. Also, part of the collection, we have the SUQQU Velvet Fit lipsticks. This is their new lipstick formula that just recently came out a couple months ago, and I really love it. I think it's a really nice matte lipstick formula. It's comfortable on the lips. It's not drying. SUQQU, you know, they really perfect their formulas before bringing them to market. So we do have two new limited edition shades, and I was unable to get either of these, but we have number 103, which is described as a delicate moon red with a subtle pink tone, and 104, an earth beige with a balanced blend of soft pink and brown. So before we take a look at some comparisons, let me just share with you what I have on my lips today. Now, as I mentioned, we do have two new limited edition Velvet Fit lipsticks available with this, and the refills are £30 each and the cases are £8 each for those. But I wanted to use one of my other favorite formulas, and these are the Moisture Glaze lipsticks. These came out last year, and they actually made it to my 2024 favorites for the best new lipstick formula. I think this is such an incredibly nice lipstick formula. So we have a lot of shine with these. It's also going to be very plush and comforting on the lips. It just feels comfortable. It feels like a glossy lip balm. And yet you have some really pigmented shades here as well. So I have a mix on of two of the shades in the permanent line, number 5, which is a beautiful cool tone purple with a little bit of violet mixed in, and 11, which is a really beautiful nude. And I mixed the two of those together to just kind of soften that purple effect, but still get a touch of that. And it's one of my favorite lip combinations. Now we've seen the new Hermes Shine lipsticks, and texturally, I would say that the SUQQU is kind of similar to those in a way. So I would say that the Hermes is going to be a little bit softer in texture to it, a little bit more of a melty texture, whereas this has a little bit more grip than the Hermes do. We also have some more pigmented shades in the SUQQU line, whereas a lot of the Hermes are going to be softer, more balm-like shades. I'm not saying they all are. There are definitely pigmented shades in both lines, but I do feel like the SUQQU has a few more of those stronger lipstick personality characteristics compared to the Hermes, and I love both of them. But I think, you know, if you like the texture of the SUQQU or you like the texture of the Hermes, chances are you will like the other one as well. And another formula comparison for the moisture glaze would be the Chantecaille Lip Shakes or the Sisley Fido Rouge Shines. So they're both going to have kind of some similar features to the moisture glaze, but I do think that the moisture glaze, you know, it's kind of a similar formula, but it's amped up a little bit more than that. And as I mentioned with the Hermes, I feel like there's just a little bit more grip with the SUQQU. It stays put a little bit better. It doesn't have as much slip on the lips as the Chantecaille or the Sisley Fido Rouge Shines. So let's go ahead and take a look at some comparisons. All right, so we're gonna start off with eyeshadow palettes, and I'm gonna start off just with this new Chanel Utopia Quad because I know somebody's gonna ask for this comparison, but it's really not going to be similar to the new SUQQU shade. But, you know, I feel like we do have some similarities, more so with this taupey shade here that's last. So again, a really beautiful new palette. You can see this is definitely going to be more pink hued than the SUQQU. Our taupe shade here also has a touch of mauve, and you can see these are going to be much more mauve than taupe like we have in the Chanel. So definitely a difference there. Now, the first palette that came to mind when I first put on the SUQQU was this Addiction Tokyo in Miss Mauve, which is one of my favorite palettes. So we do have a very similar color story here. So we start off kind of with a nice metallic purple. We go into more of a soft matte. Again, it's kind of that taupe with a mauve base. We have more of a brownish taupe satin with a touch of mauve in it. And then we have a deeper hue as well with a bit of mauve. So you can see color-wise, we do have some similarities. This is definitely more of a mauve palette, whereas the SUQQU is more purple. These more brighter pops of purple is what we're lacking in the Miss Mauve. This first shade is going to be your closest, but you can see that overall it doesn't really compare. I would say the Miss Mauve is more neutral, whereas the SUQQU is going to lean cooler. I also wanted to take a look at this one here, which is from Cle de Peau. This is number 12, Purple Ocean Twilight. And let's go ahead and see. Again, we've got some brighter purples and some taupey shades in here as well. Look at that. I mean, that's really beautiful. Then we have kind of this primer shade, which, you know, doesn't really count. It works well, but you can see it's not going to give much of a shade. And then our deepest shade here is more eggplant with a touch of red. So you can see it gets deeper. The purple in the Cle de Peau, though, is going to be, it's closest to the first shade here. It's a little bit less blue in the SUQQU compared to the Cle de Peau, but they're very close. So overall color story, I would say, is fairly similar. And last up, this is Tom Ford in Violet Satiné, which I love this palette. So this is a really great one. And this one, I feel like it's just a little bit more shimmery than the SUQQU. We're just going to do these side by side because we are running out of space, but you can see it's going to be a little bit more pigmented for our deeper shades. This one here is going to be a bit rosier, more pink, but the mix of these two is kind of what we get right here. And then our purple here is going to be a little bit more blue based and not quite as bright. It's more of a dusty hue. And then this lighter soft pink shimmer, you know, it can blend nicely with this to get a similar shade to the first shade. So again, some similarities here. So let's look at those one more time. This is a SUQQU in 146. And then over here we have Chanel Utopia, Addiction Tokyo Miss Mauve. This is going to be our Cle de Peau in number 12, Purple Ocean Twilight. And this is Tom Ford in Violet Satine, which is the creme formula. So let's go ahead. I'm going to remove these and move on to blushes. I actually don't have really great comparisons for the blushes. This is number 108 that we're looking at here. And this is number 1 in the permanent line here. So you can see we have a little bit of a similar undertone, but this one does look a lot lighter. So let's go ahead. We're going to swatch number 1 here. And we're going to do the same thing. These are our two ends. And then this is in the middle. And you can see overall that number 1 is going to be a bit more pink, whereas we have more coral. It's going to be a little bit warmer for number 108. The other one I want to compare is number 3. And you can see that our reddish hue on the bottom here is going to be more similar to that in the 108. So let's see how that one compares. Now, instead of having more of that lavender highlight, we actually have more of a nude, you know, a brown nude shade here, more of a warm beige. And so although we might have a similar shade kind of at the ends, the whole palette itself isn't similar. And you can see that here with number 3, this is going to be more red compared to 108, which is definitely going to be more coral. We've got a little bit more orange in there. So that's how those compare. Let's move on to the highlights. All right, let's just re-swatch number 3 on this arm going vertically here. So we're going to put number 3 right here. So get a little bit more there. Just so we can really kind of see that. What a pretty shade. Now, the other two that came out, they came out together. This is 101, which is a white highlight. And this is probably my favorite white highlight because it's actually a true white. It's not super silvery. It's not white gold. It's more of a true shimmery white. And I love the tone of that. Again, you can make these more subtle if you'd like, or build them up. And then we have 102, which is going to be more of a dusty rose shade. And this one's going to be a lot warmer than this one in number 103. You can see 103 is more of that pale petal pink. It almost looks like it might have a little bit of a lavender hue, but it really doesn't. It's really just more of that soft, light, cool tone pink. Now, just a few quick comparisons. This is Tom Ford's Rose Irisé, which is one of my favorites, but this is going to be more of a champagne pink. You can see the difference there. Just going to add a little bit more of the 103 here, just because I know sometimes when I turn my arm, it's hard to see it with the way the reflection works. And then I wanted to take a look at a couple of the new Dior ones. We have number 3. This is Pink Halo. This is actually going to be more similar to the Tom Ford, though, than the new pink from SUQQU. And number 4, Pink Strobe. This one's actually a duochrome. This is a really beautiful, brighter cool tone pink with a golden duochrome in it, but you can see it's going to be significantly warmer, and of course it has more of that metallic finish. And then just 2 others I wanted to look at. We have, these are from Westman Atelier, and this is going to be Peau de Rose, which these are going to be more of your cream highlights. You can see this is going to be warmer. We've got a little bit of gold in there, and there is some shimmer. And then we also have Peau de Santé, also the same formula here. And you can see, again, that's going to be warmer as well. I don't really have a great light pink highlight like that. My closest will be this one from Givenchy. This is number 11 from Givenchy. And this is one of the loose powder highlighters. And let's see here. We'll put it right up here at the top. You can see it's also going to be a soft, cool tone pink, but it's actually going to be a little bit warmer than the 103. But that's my closest shade. Another difference with the Givenchy is it is going to be a bit deeper in color. So just something to note. So one more time, just taking a look, we have 103 going vertically. Then we have 101 and 102 from SUQQU. This is Tom Ford, Rose Irisé, Dior, Rose Halo and Pink Strobe, or Pink Halo and Pink Strobe rather. This is Westman Atelier, Peau de Rosé, and Peau de Santé. And this is Givenchy in number 11, which was limited edition. Over here, we have SUQQU in 146. This is the blush in 108, and this is the reflect highlighter in 103. So I hope that was helpful. Let me just swatch the lip shades real quickly. Oh, and before I forget, I wanted to swatch. This is the Dior eyeliner in Matte Taupe, which is really more of a purple. So I just wanted to share it because I think it goes very nicely with this particular palette. And this is number 771. It's called Matte Taupe. And the lipsticks from SUQQU. This is number 5, which is going to be a cooler tone purple. We do have a little bit of pink in there, of course, but it is going to be like, think of a bitten blackberry. And then we have number 11. So I mixed the two of these together, and this is kind of a rosy nude, but you can see mixed together, it kind of gives this effect here. And again, I kind of want to, one of my favorite lip colors is Sugar Glider from Tom Ford. So I feel like this kind of gives a similar approximation because this shade is discontinued. So mixing the two of these kind of gives me a very similar vibe, but with a much glossier shine. Let me just mix those two on my hands here so you can really see that right next to the Sugar Glider. So that's the 11. We'll mix that in there. And you can see how close those are. And of course you can add more of 11 or 5 or whatever to kind of get like your perfect balance. But I think it's a nice approximation. So I hope this has been helpful. Overall, I have to say thank you so much to SUQQU for gifting me these items here from the Stellar Allure collection. I am so beyond impressed with these, particularly the eyeshadow palette and the highlighter. Those are definitely my top 2. I love the blush, but this eyeshadow palette and the highlighter are definitely going to be go-tos for me throughout the whole year. So I know they're ones that I'm just going to reach for constantly. I'd love to know what you think of these products. Again, these are going to be launching March 20th at Selfridges and April 3rd at Harrods and Liberty. So let me know your thoughts down below in the comments section. I'd love to know if you're considering picking up any of these or some of the other items from the collection. Still sort of on the fence, but I think I'm good with these 3. So thank you so much for tuning in. Hope you have a wonderful day, and thank you so much for watching.